Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome back to the Slam. I'm your host, Martina, and I am back. I know it's been a little while. I do apologize for that. Had to take a couple weeks off, but I'm back and back to let everybody know what's going on in the world of wrestling right now. For those that are new, my name is Martina. I am a huge, huge wrestling fan. I love wrestling, AEW, WWE, and also I'm going to be covering NWA in this show because there's been some very noteworthy things going on there as well. Let's just dive right in. Um, Today is Wednesday, November 9th. The show will be airing later, but at the time of this filming, Dynamite Dynamite is the show that just went off, so we're going to cover that first. And I do just want to say I'm going to be switching things up a little bit. On this show, I'm going to start doing more little shorter shows because I know my shows tend to be long because I'm a talker and I'm long winded and there's always so much to talk about. But rather than doing a lot of editing, I try to give you the information. I try to give it to you straight up. And so you don't have to go and do digging to find out what's going on. I just give it to you straight. So let's dive right in. So Dynamite just went off. It was a really, really good episode. They're really setting Full Gear up to be very, very interesting. I'm really looking forward to what's going to be happening here. So of course we know we've got MJF versus Moxley for the championship is brewing. They're building it up. They're building it up slowly but surely. We've got the women's in the women on the women's side of things right now. I think even though Tony Storm is a champion. Um, Personally, the women's match I'm most looking forward to seeing is Saraya versus Britt Baker, even though they don't neither of them have titles, but just the the bravado and the ego there because we know Britt Baker is very braggadocious and Saraya I think I'm pretty sure it's Saraya. The promo that she cut tonight, she was really going in. She was going, giving it to him straight. She was like, you don't know what I've had to do to get here, to get where I am. She was naming all the things she's been through. She talked about her struggle with drug addiction, and basically just saying like you're ungrateful and you don't have what it takes to do what I've done. And I really like this side of her. And she actually, she did a few moves on her. I think she did a body slam, and that's one of the first times we've seen her be physical. A couple weeks ago, she landed some punches, but this one, I'm pretty sure I saw. I don't remember the exact move. I think it was there was she did some kind of body slam. She threw some punches. She got physical, and Britt Baker left with her tail between her legs, which is not something we see very often for her. So I like this side of Saraya. I'm glad to see her putting in, actually letting us know that she's going to be wrestling. And I'm going to grab my phone here to make sure I get this correct. According to Twitter, reliable source, right? According to Twitter, she is indeed medically cleared because that was one of the biggest things. We're like, okay, she's here. We know she's very popular. She's super, super popular on Twitch. She's a great personality. She's got a makeup line. Like, we know she's this personality. And we're like, is she medically cleared? But it appears that she is indeed medically cleared. So it is going to be her in the ring versus Britt Baker at Full Gear. So really looking forward to that. We also had a very interesting heel turn tonight, and I saw this coming. We've got Wardlow. He's in the ring. He's calling out Powerhouse Hobbs, and Samoa Joe is standing directly behind him. And wouldn't you have it, the way that Joe was standing, like he's standing there directly behind Wardlow, and I just had a feeling. I said he's about to turn on him. Like just his stance looked like he was going to take the belt and go over Wardlow's head, and sure enough, that's exactly what he did. So belt over Wardlow's head. He made it clear that he where he stands. So he turned on Wardlow. So Wardlow. Samoa Joe, War Joe is no more, and it seems that let me reference this to make sure I get it correct. It looks like the card right now, I just wanted to, I looked this up before I got started because I want to make sure I got it right. It looks like right now we are going to indeed have Wardlow versus Hobbs, but without Joe in his corner, because we did see Joe talking some smack with Hobbs as well, because Hobbs is coming down the ramp, and Wardlow is, recovering from being put in that coquina clutch. I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing that correctly. So he's laid out, and Joe's talking smack to Hobbs, who's coming, Powerhouse Hobbs coming down the ramp. So it looks like it is going to be Wardlow versus Hobbs, and this full gear card is looking pretty good. So I'm going to read out what I have thus far. Thus far, of course, we know MJF versus Mox. Tony Storm versus Jamie Hayter for the title, Nyla Rose versus Jade. I really want to see Jade retain and get her physical belt back, because Nyla has been holding on to it. Even though she's not the champion, she is just physically holding the title, which I do not like that angle at all. I want to see the title back around Jade's 12-pack abs where it belongs, because she is the rightful champion and she's earned it and she's undefeated. Give that woman her title back. So we are going to see Nyla versus Jade. Again, this is a full gear card. We're going to have Jericho versus Sammy versus Danielson versus Claudio. That should be a very interesting match. And now, mind you, today is Jericho's 52nd birthday. Happy birthday to Chris Jericho, my favorite wrestler of all time. Happy birthday. He turned 52. And just a fun fact, because I do want to start talking about like news and rumors and things that we see here. Something very interesting. It was going viral. I don't know if you guys are familiar with The Masked Singer, which is such an entertaining show, where all the performers are wearing these super elaborate costumes that completely conceal their face or identity in any possible way. And this clip is going viral of what is very obviously Chris Jericho. He is like a dragon bride, like a pink dragon snout with like a bridal costume. It is very obviously Chris Jericho. He's singing that song, "Shut Up and Dance with Me." Oh, shut up and dance with me. But he's singing it like in his like rocker voice, and it's so obviously him. He couldn't sound any more like himself if he tried, which is so entertaining. And people were like, "Who is this?" And people were like, "It's 100% obviously Chris Jericho." So I will be interested to see that unmasking, because even though I don't watch the show regularly, I do like how they have people that you would not expect. I think Dr. Phil was on there one time. Like, it's not always people who are like traditional singers. So I thought that was pretty cool. And so, yeah, this is a fun fact about Jericho. So we got that. We got the Acclaimed versus Swerve versus, I'm sorry, the Acclaimed versus Swerve and Lee. They need to just go ahead and break Swerve and Lee up. That's my personal opinion. I think they just need to go ahead and break that up. We've got Britt versus Saraya. We've got Darby and Sting versus Jarrett and Jay Lethal, which I'm pretty sure it's going to end up being. That one has a question mark next to it. Then we got Ethan Page versus Ricky Starks. I'm pretty sure that's happening. And then I got Death Triangle versus the Elite. That also has a question mark. They're still teasing the Elite returning. I'm pretty sure they're going to be returning. They're still doing those commercials where it's like, they're fading into the background, but they're recapping segments that they have had, but they're disappearing and reappearing. So at any rate, I want to see the Elite return, because the Death Triangle needs some competition. Since House of Black is not around, they need somebody to fight. So I want to see them. We did see Best Friends in action tonight. They were in action against, I hate that I cannot remember who they were in action against, but they did have a match this evening. It was a lot to cover. It's a lot going on right now. But yeah, that it looks like that is the card right now for Full Gear. But yeah, and then I believe we're also gonna get FTR versus Gun Club, and I believe we are getting Ethan Page versus Bandito for a tournament final. Interesting. So yeah, and with, let's talk about it, with Jeff Jarrett being back. I thought it was so funny that tonight, I love subliminal, thinly veiled WWE references, because I always catch them, because I'm good like that. Like, I always catch them. And Jeff Jarrett, who might I add, who looks very good for 70 years old, might I add. He came back last week. For those who were like, wait a minute, did you say AEW? Yes. If you have not been watching, Jeff Jarrett has returned. That man is everywhere. He was in he was in WCW, WWE, WWF. It started TNA, now Impact. Yes, he is now present day in 2022. He is present day in AEW, and he is partnered with Jay Lethal and Satnam Singh and that whole crew. And he called out Braun Strowman, because for those that don't know, Satnam Singh is like 8'9". I'm being facetious, but he's extremely tall, and he is he's from India. Sorry, these bangs are driving me crazy. He's from India and he's extremely tall, and he goes, "Yeah, this is a real giant, not a giant that wears red skinny jeans." And sorry, I'm grabbing my comb here. Sorry, these bangs are driving me crazy. He's like, "This is a real giant, not a giant that wears red skinny jeans and is booked by a banana nose fool or something to that effect." He said something about banana nose, and he's obviously referencing Triple H. So I was like, man, the shade, like he shaded Braun Strowman, and he shaded Triple H at the same time. I thought that was interesting, because for those that don't know, Braun Strowman, okay, I thought people were making a bigger deal of this than it really was, my personal opinion. But I like Braun Strowman, so I'm a little biased because I like him. I really respect his journey from being just like kind of a big, clumsy type of guy to being like a skilled big man, which is not easy when you're 6'8" or wherever he is. He's extremely big. So he had a match against Omos at Crown Jewel. He won. And he tweeted something to the effect of, it just goes to show you, you don't have to be a flippy floppy wrestler, something about bagging groceries. Like he worded it kind of weird, but he words all his tweets kind of weird. He always tweets kind of weird. So I didn't think it was as deep as people were making it. But basically people were making it like, oh, you're disrespecting your coworkers, and that was so disrespectful because most of your coworkers are the flippy floppies. Because basically what he was saying, because he says in the tweet also to like, bigger is better, like basically say, because him and Omos are obviously like the WWE's resident big man. They're both huge, and they're obviously head and shoulders above their peers. And he basically was saying, like, you don't have to do a whole bunch of flipping around and high flying type of style of wrestling in order to be entertaining. And I didn't think it was that deep, like, but people were making such a big deal of it and were like, oh, you're disrespecting your coworkers. And of course, some other wrestlers quote tweeted and chimed in. I mean, I guess because I take his tweets worth a grain of salt because he tweets kind of crazy to begin with, but people made it a huge deal and like just made him out to be the worst person ever for that tweet. I just didn't think it was as deep as people were making it. But so I think that was kind of where Jeff Jarrett was coming from. Like when he made that comment, he was basically saying like, just he was just capitalizing on the shade that has been thrown at Braun since he made that tweet. And so yeah, he took that time during his promo tonight on Dynamite to take shots at at Braun and at Triple H. And yeah, so I thought that was interesting, especially for someone who's been around the industry as much as he has. Him calling out Sting, I think, is very interesting, because he just, for those that don't know, Jeff Jarrett just had a match with Ric Flair. Yes, Ric Flair, a couple months ago or so, was Ric Flair's last match. I put it in air quotes because very shortly thereafter he was like, "Let's do it again." Y'all know Ric Flair's gonna. I'm sorry, these bangs are driving me crazy, y'all. Ric Flair's gonna wrestle to the grave, right? Like he's gonna wrestle to the very end, and he is in his. I don't even know what he's in. He's up there, y'all. He's up there. I don't know how old he is, but I want to say he's like 60, 76, 70 something in his 70s. And Jeff Jarrett himself is in his 70s. So I thought he was a worthy opponent with the history and the career that they've had. But yeah, it's been a lot going on. But with him calling out Sting, who is also, of course, a veteran. I love Sting. Of course, he's up there in age as well, but he's still getting it. And I like him. I don't know. I'm a little nervous about the elders with in-ring action because I just don't want them to get injured. Like young guys get injured. So I always get nervous, not being shady, but just because these older wrestlers, like they've proven themselves, the Jeff Jarrett's, the Stings, the Ric Flairs, they've proven themselves. They've been around the world and back, and I just don't want to see them get injured. But I know, of course, they're grown men, and it's their decision, if they want to pursue in-ring action versus just like a managerial role. That is their right, and that is their decision. But as a fan, because I truly I think of myself as a more compassionate fan. I don't like to think of myself as like, I'm not the blood and guts fan. Some people are like, more blood, more guts, whatever. Like, I actually do care about their well-being, because I know that they're putting their bodies on the line and this is their profession. So I want them to be physically well, physically capable and well. But if they want to, there looks like they're going to be an in-ring action, so it looks like we're going to get that. So as far as AEW, yeah, of course, the Elite has not physically returned yet, but I do think they're going to be coming. And yeah, that's the Full Gear is building out to be a very good card. And I have to say, if they do not pull the trigger and put the title on MJF, they are making a huge mistake. We've seen this before, there's been times before where they had the opportunity to put the title on MJF and they did not. I felt like with the CM Punk feud personally, I felt like he should have came out the champion. So I just, word to Tony, put the title on MJF, because if you don't do it now, it's gonna really make this whole build up look ridiculous, because he's been cutting some fantastic promos. All his promos are great, but the ones lately are just like extra extra. I'm like, dude, like, put the title on the guy, like, do it, pull the trigger, do it. So that is my own personal, and not just me, like the crowd goes crazy for MJF. Like and Mox is great, no disrespect to him. The promo that that MJF cut tonight, he does a good job of like giving respect but being such a jerk about it at the same time. Because he says about Mox, like, you got two left feet, and like basically like saying he's the worst, but he's like, I do respect you though, because for 15 years you drive you were that guy who would drive 15 hours to perform in front of 15 people for $15, and basically saying he hates him but he respects him at the same time, in his way that only MJF can do. Not many people can do the hate respect way promo the way that he does, but it works for him. And Mox cut a good promo himself with Regal out there. I feel like Regal's gonna turn. It's just body language. We know that body language speaks so much more than words, right? Like, what is it? What did they say? Like 80% of body language is nonverbal. The way that Regal was standing tonight, I was like, he's gonna turn. He's gonna turn. I feel like he's gonna turn. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I sense a heel turn coming. That I think he's gonna turn on Mox and somehow help MJF. So that's my prediction there. So I know I've got a lot to cover and I don't want to talk for too long. That's AEW. So I talked about some news and rumors. Let's talk about Crown Jewel. Of course, we have to reverence Tribal Chief. Let's go with this in a bit. Tribal Chief, Roman Reigns is still number one. He's still the winner. He retained over Logan Paul, as we knew he would. Anyone who thought otherwise is wrong. Of course he won, but I must say, Logan Paul did hold his own better than I anticipated. I did not think he was going to do as well as he did. As a matter of fact, I was telling my mom, I personally think that Logan Paul's performance at this point in time, he is physically better in the ring than Dominic. He's better in the ring than a lot of people. And that is not because like I'm like trying to be shady, but he's quite good. He's good. I was very impressed, because at first I was like, now what? I felt like oh my God, they're just giving him a match because of his followers. Basically, WWE's just trying to get clout off his followers. But then when you see him in the ring, you're like, okay, all right, I stand corrected. He's quite good for this to be his third match. So some of the highlights from that match, like, and I have to say, it was so genius, seeing how Logan was training with Shawn Michaels, a legend in his own right, and the fact that uh, during the match, Logan Paul hit a buckshot lariat on Roman. He landed it just right. And for those that don't know, that's one of Hangman Page's signature moves from AEW. I thought that was very intentional. It was very slick. It was very clever how they put that in there, because that he did, like, Hangman Page, that's one of the moves he's known for. Everyone knows that's his move. And the fact that they put that in there and Logan like nailed it, I was like, oh, that was very clever, very clever. I love how the different promotions, like, they send so many subtle messages to the other. Like I said earlier, like the way Jeff Jarrett, he did not say names, throwing shots at WWE and WWE. Like it's like this. It's just so entertaining. It's entertainment. Like these huge companies, these are multi-billion-dollar companies, and the way that they throw shade at each other is just so funny to me. It's entertaining that they stuck that in there because there were a lot of moves he could have done, and the fact that they did not call it a buckshot lariat, they called it a clothesline. They're like, oh man, and he nails a clothesline, and we're like, that's a buckshot lariat. For those that don't know, that's where you basically jump over the top rope and do like a flip over the top rope and bring your arm directly over the, you know, face, chest, neck, and head area of your opponent. And he nailed it. Of course, Roman ended up successful. But in this match, I would not say that he cheated because that's one of the big critiques, which is a silly critique because he's a heel. But people are like, he can't win on his own. He always needs the Usos and them to win. But I'm like, he's a heel. That's what heels do. I'm like, hello, the every heel that has ever lived does that. They always employ people to do their bidding. That's what a heel does. So that's not a valid critique in my opinion. However, in this match, he did a great job. He held his own. Because sometimes I do feel um, like in those matches with Brock Lesnar, all 95 of the ones that they've had together, I'm not gonna lie, I do feel like it can be a lot of the same moves over and over again from both guys. I'm like, okay, here comes another suplex, here comes another F5, here comes another Superman punch, here comes another spear. But this match, I feel like Roman did a better job as well. Like he was doing, more submission holds. He did some cervical clutches. He pulled more out of his arsenal as well. So I thought Logan brought the best out of Roman, and Roman definitely made Logan look great because we know that no one's going to look good unless their opponent is compliant, because that's unfortunately been one of the critiques about Ronda Rousey. People have said that she does not do enough selling or she doesn't do enough to make her opponents look good. Now she didn't have a match at Crown Jewel, but just saying that's been one of the critiques. So I think kudos to both Logan and Roman for making that match look fantastic. The crowd was fantastic. The crowd was really into it. Um, let's see. One of the biggest things. Let's talk about Raw. Let's talk about Raw following Crown Jewel. Um, I think it is really worth noting that Austin Theory was the first man in history to to cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase for the U.S. title. Typically, you cash it in for the heavyweight title, for the world title, the undisputed title. But he cashed it in for the U.S. title, which is, of course, held currently by uh, Rollins. I had too many R's, and I'm like, Roman Riddle, held by Rollins. And he lost. I'm laughing because the way they did it, I said this on Twitter, the way that they did it, it came across to me that they did this exclusively to get the briefcase away from Theory so that he did not have to face Roman. Because we all know at SummerSlam and twice prior, SummerSlam was one, I can't remember what the other one was, but twice prior, Theory kind of halfway attempted to cash it in. He did not officially cash it in because we know to officially cash it in, you have to literally physically hand the briefcase over to the referee and say, I am cashing it in. And they have to announce and say, Theory is now cashing in. And they did not do that because at SummerSlam, and the before, but definitely at SummerSlam, he came running out during the match, during the Brock and Roman match, and attempted to cash it in, but was unsuccessful because he got mollywalked by Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury. So time as well where he attempted but was unsuccessful. So, this was his third. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, sorry, I had a little glitch there. Sorry about that. So yeah, this was Theory's third attempt to cash this bad boy in. So you know what I'm saying? I'm like, at this point, they had to get it off of him because it was starting to look silly at this point. So he comes out and he at first I was like, what are we doing here? Because this has never happened before. But yeah, he cashes it in to beat to get the US title from Rollins. He is unsuccessful because Lashley, it was a Lashley, it was supposed to be Lashley versus Rollins. But before the match even began, Lashley beat the brakes off of Rollins. So Rollins was laid out. So Theory took this opportunity to come out. So they did set it up nicely. The setup was decent because it's like, okay, Rollins is normally such a top notch competitor, but Lashley beat the brakes off of him, and he was laid out. So here comes opportunistic Theory, like, oh shoot, Rollins is laid out. Let's do this. So he cashes it in. However, Lashley comes back, and it was like, oh no, they're not doing that either. And he beats the brakes off of Theory. And then once he's done with him, then Rollins has his turn, and he beats him in like 2.5 seconds. So Theory becomes the first person to cash in their briefcase for a non world title for the US is a world title, but you know what I'm saying, for a non heavyweight title. He cashed into the US title and he lost. And a lot of people were saying, oh, they buried him. He's done. How will he recover? They just ruined his career. People, the IWC is very dramatic. The IWC, for those that don't know, is referring to the wrestling community, on and offline, the community of wrestling fans, the WWE universe, the AEW galaxy. They tend to be very vocal and very dramatic. And I know I'm dramatic sometimes too, but I'm like, y'all, his career is not buried. But it is true that he was Vince's VKM, Vince Kennedy McMahon. He was his protege. And with Vince being gone now, they made it pretty clear that whatever Vince saw in Theory, you know, Triple H clearly does not see that same thing at this particular point in time. So it remains to see how he will recover from this. But honestly, I think that, like I said, I still think it was to get that title, get that briefcase away from him, because he was starting to look crazy with it. Like I said, half attempt. They needed to get it off of him, and they knew that he wasn't going to beat Roman. If Brock Lesnar couldn't beat Roman, if Drew McIntyre couldn't beat Roman, you know good and well that Theory was not at the caliber to be able to beat him at this time. Maybe one day, I doubt it, but Theory wasn't gonna be. He would have to kill Roman to get that title away from him. As Roman says when he's leaving the ring, like, you can't take it from me. You're going to kill me to take it from me. Like, it wasn't gonna happen. So I think they just needed to get it off of him. And we all know Roman is not dropping those titles anytime soon. So I think it was a wise business move. I understand why they did it. Bianca retained. Um, the Usos retained, of course. Pretty much everybody retained. Um, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think there were any title changes. Yeah, if I'm, yeah, everyone retained pretty much. But coming into War Games, which is going to be later this month, Survivor Series War Games, that is brewing. That's going to be very interesting. Word on the street is that Sasha and Naomi are going to return to complete Bianca's team. Because, Survivor, or for those that don't know, Survivor Series War Games is team based. So there's going to be a Bayley team, there's going to be a Bianca team. I know I would love to see that. I love Sasha and Naomi. I love them both so much. I think they're great role models. I think they're great wrestlers. I love them very, very much. I would love to see them return. They can't come back fast enough for me. I'm ready to see it. Let's get it. Another person, when I say I'm ready, I am ready for Bray Wyatt to have some in-ring action, because he also was at Crown Jewel. He did not have a match, but he did cut a very nice promo. And of course, we have freaky, creepy Uncle Howdy in these promos. Immediately after Bray is done with his piece, here comes Uncle Howdy, with his normal, you know, just basically taunting him. Bray's promo was really good because he did basically remind these people who he is. Like, hey, I come from a wrestling family too, and I'm not gonna lie, I did not know this. I didn't know until I did some digging myself. But for those that don't know, Bray Wyatt is also a third or fourth generation wrestler, because there was his grandfather, his dad, his brother, and him. Barry Windham was his father. He was more active in like the Dusty Rhodes era. So we know that there's a lot of legacy wrestlers, but a lot of, I think not as many people know about his legacy as much. I know I did not. So yeah, so he gave a great promo. Looking forward to seeing him build his team of the Wyatt Six and see him in ring. And I'm coming up on 30 minutes. I don't want to make this too long, but I do just want to wrap up with saying with NWA, I know I normally don't cover NWA, not because it's not worthy, not because there's anything wrong with them, but AEW and WWE keep my hands full. However, something very interesting is going on in WA right now. That they have a pay per view coming up, Hard Times, and one of their biggest names, Nick Aldis, is gone from the company now. If for those that don't know, he is married to Mickey James, formerly of WWE. And she is now back in WWE or in WA, too many W's. But the owner of or the president of NWA is Billy Corgan. Yes, Smashing Pumpkins Billy Corgan. I did not know this until recently, because I'd seen here and there, I'd seen him around, but I did not realize. I'm like, that is the guy. Like 1990s, the Smashing Pumpkins was a very popular band in like the 90s. And they are still around, I believe. But yeah, the owner or the president, and Billy Corgan is the president of NWA, and basically he tweeted something that got people very upset. He basically, more or less, I'm going to paraphrase here. He essentially said that there would not be another Empower, with three R's, pay per view because he did not feel that the women could carry it. Now, Empower, for those that don't know, was a pay per view that was more. It's my understanding that it was like an all women's pay per view, similar to how WWE had Evolution maybe 5 years ago or so. And he basically was saying that they weren't doing it again because he didn't think the women could carry it. And this was very unpopular. And Mickey James basically came out with a rebuttal disagreeing, and Maria Kanellis Bennett and some other women saying that's not true. And you just basically tweeting their disapproval. And Mickey James' husband did not like this either. Of course, that's her husband. And there was some back and forth. And he has given his notice and is going to be leaving the company. That is the last I've heard, unless it has changed. At the time of this recording on November 9th, that is the last I heard, which is very big because he's one of the bigger names. Like, he was previously removed from a main event back in August and was replaced. So there's been some back and forth and turmoil over the past few months. It'll be interesting to see how this pans out because he's one of their bigger names. And, a smaller promotion already, with has a smaller roster. It'll be interesting to see, like, well, are they going to be able to lose one of their biggest female names and one of their biggest male names at the same time? Because if he's leaving, she's probably going to leave too. So more to come on that, but that is very interesting. And people love Mickey James. Like, even though she's a veteran, she's been around for a very long time. She's very, very popular. People love her. She gets a great crowd pop. So I am really interested to see how this goes. And it sounds like that this is a classic case of open mouth insert foot for Billy Corgan. I don't know why he felt like he needed to say what he said. But yeah, that's basically what happened. Pardon me, my nose is running. I'm so sorry. But yeah, that's kind of what's going on right now. So I know I'm talking fast, but like I said, I'm trying to make these videos shorter. I'm trying to not talk so long. But that's kind of what's going on in the world of wrestling right now. Please comment below. Give me your comments, concerns, questions. What are your thoughts? Like, how do you feel about what's going on in with preparing for War Games for WWE? What are your thoughts about Full Gear for AEW? What are your thoughts about what's going on with NWA with the Aldis? So let me know your thoughts. As always, if you want to be on my show, please come and message me or message Fired Up Network. Shoot us a DM. We will get something set up. Please like, share, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. Follow Fired Up Network. Watch my other show. It's not my show, but The Blaze is another show that I'm featured on. It is on the FEM, or the Female Empowerment Network. The FEM movement. It's all female content all the time. FEM is a part of the Fired Up Network. Follow us, like, share, and subscribe. Follow my YouTube channel, Martina Talks Wrestling. I'm everywhere you want to be. I'm on YouTube, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, Instagram. You can follow me at Slam Host Martina. So yep, everything wrestling, that's what I talk about. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye.